When we're born, we are assigned a sex. This sex assignment at birth is primarily based on our external genitalia. Typically, we're either assigned female at birth, also known as AFAB or AFAB. So a baby is born with a vulva, and the doctors usually say, oh, it's a girl. There's actually a couple of things going on here. First, the sex is assigned, female. Then, the gender is assigned based on that sex, girl. We'll talk about the difference between sex and gender in a second. This is actually a more correct and respectful alternative to biological sex, or saying someone is biologically female. Because at the end of the day, we don't know all of the things that make up that person's biology, so we can't really make that determination, and neither can doctors. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So we've already discussed assigned female at birth. Assigned male at birth is also known as AMAB or AMAB. So someone is born with a penis. We assign the sex of male, and then we assign the gender of boy. So someone is born with a penis and we go, it's a boy. So they're assigned male at birth, and then as a result, they're also assigned their sex. Now, the thing is, sex isn't that simple. Intersex people exist. So intersex people are people born with sex characteristics like genitals, gonads, and or chromosomes that don't fall nice and neatly into male and female. And here's the kicker. Do you know what your chromosomes are? So we have our external genitalia, and then we have our internal genitalia, like our testes or ovaries. Those would be like our gonads. Some people may not know. They might just assume. We can't really say 100% that any of us are 100% biologically male or biologically female. There's more variance in this than a lot of us realize. And so, like I said earlier, sex is different than gender. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. So sex is assigned at birth based on your external anatomy. Your gender is often assigned at birth as well, as I discussed previously, based on your sex at birth. So sex and gender are often conflated. But gender is different. Gender is actually a social construct of norms, behaviors, and roles that vary between societies over time. So some examples of terms that refer to sex: male, female, or intersex, whereas terms that refer to gender are terms like this: boy, girl, man, woman, non-binary, gender non-conforming, two-spirit, mushe, hydra, and so many more. So there are lots of different genders across many different cultures. This isn't just a United States thing. This is across the world, this is across space, and this is across time. Something else that I want to go over here is, what is cisgender and what does transgender mean? Because a lot of people have misconceptions about this. When we're babies, we can't really speak for ourselves, but at a certain point, we develop our sense of self. So this person was assigned male at birth, and then they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm a man. Okay, so this is what we call cisgender. This isn't a dirty word or a bad word. Cis just means on the same side. So this person's gender matches, and I say in quotes, matches the sex they were assigned at birth. Now, would we say this person identifies as a man? No. They're just male. They are a man. That's just who they are. Okay? What if this person says, you know what? You may have assigned me male at birth, but I'm not a man. This person would be transgender. Trans means across. Translation is taking something from one language across to another language. So transgender is crossing over the line from the gender you were assigned at birth to a different gender. But man and woman, male and female, like I said when we were talking about assigning sex at birth, assigning gender at birth, it isn't as nice and neat and clear cut as we like to pretend it is, no, which brings us to our next term. Someone can be neither a man nor a woman, somewhere in between or outside of them both completely. This person is non-binary. Non meaning not, bi meaning two, not the two genders that we try to limit people to. I'm going to be frank. I'm not here to argue the existence of non-binary folks. I'm not here to tell you that you have to agree with it. I'm just explaining how many people in this world see gender. And if you're an interpreter watching this video, remember, we have to be impartial. So even if we have our own conceptualizations of gender, it's important for us to have an open mind and realize that other people may not share that same conception of gender. And that's it. So chances are, if you are one of those people who says there's only men and women, you likely believe in this thing called the gender binary. So the gender binary is the idea that there are only two genders, because binary means having two parts. So some societies like ours tend to recognize just two genders, man and woman. So I just want to point out here that the image that's used on this slide is actually a boo-boo. But this is actually a mistake I see on a lot of medical forms. Male and female are not genders. So this idea that man and woman are the only two genders, that's the gender binary. That being said, though, societies and the consensuses they hold over time do evolve, just like language. And in addition to that, there are so many cultures that recognize gender outside of male and female. Oops, I made a mistake. Male and female are not genders. Genders would be man and woman, right? So this includes many indigenous cultures that existed before the arrival of colonizers. And what I have here in this visual are just a few of the cultures, many of which, but not all, are indigenous or native, in which genders outside of the binary, man and woman, are part of the fabric of their culture and customs. Many of these cultures have had these customs for thousands of years, and in many cases, these gender customs are also tied to spiritual and religious functions. So, again, if you're an interpreter watching this, much as we strive to take into account cultural differences when rendering our interpretations, so too should we take into account what may be entirely different conceptualizations of things many of us take for granted or assume to be true. We also can't impose our own cultural values on what we're interpreting, otherwise we're just not being impartial.